whether a writ petition is maintainable under Article 32 of the Constitution against an order passed by the Honorable Supreme Court itself, either under the Contempt of Courts Act or under Article 129 of the Constitution, and thereby convicting somebody of the contempt of court. Interestingly, this question has arisen in the recent case which was decided by the bench presided over by Honorable Justice Deepak Gupta and Aniruddha Bose, by which some advocate from Bombay and one social activist were convicted of contempt of court by the Supreme Court. Thereafter, these petitioners filed a recall application. That recall application was also disposed of, and in that order disposing the recall application, the Honorable Bench has observed that a writ petition is not maintainable against an order by the Supreme Court. Now, in the light of this, I have thought it very necessary to discuss some case laws which will certainly enlighten the advocates and the other people who are concerned with the law. Now, I would like to tell one example that a petition under Article 32 was maintained by Supreme Court against its own order. It was a case where a police raiding party had gone to arrest one fellow, and that fellow, after having understood that police is coming, left the place, and the police felt very enraged and it became angry, and in that anger they took into custody the minor son of the so-called accused who ran away, and they detained the son into the police custody, and they left a warning that unless that fellow surrenders, they will not release the minor child. Now, it is in this background that the father of the son filed a petition into Supreme Court under Article 32, and that petition was for writ of habeas corpus. And in that petition, Supreme Court initially directed the SSP, that is Senior Superintendent of Police of the concerned district, to hold an inquiry and to file a report to the Supreme Court stating as to whether any such incident had taken place. And the SSP and other fellows filed a report which was found to be false and fabricated. Thereafter, in order to verify the authenticity and the falsity of the report, Supreme Court had directed the district judge of the concerned district to hold an inquiry and to submit a report. Accordingly, the district judge submitted a report stating that the incident had taken place and the minor son of the petitioner was taken into custody by the police, and the reports submitted by the SSPs and other police officers were fabricated and false. Accordingly, Supreme Court had to convict the SSP, whose name is M.S. Ahlawat, and other his colleagues, and they were convicted for the offences of perjury punishable under section 191 and 193 of the IPC, that is Indian Penal Code. Besides, they were also convicted for the offence of contempt of court. And thereafter, the M.S. Ahlawat, who was an IPS officer, that is Senior Superintendent of Police, was sentenced with imprisonment of 1 year for the offence of perjury, and also sentenced for the imprisonment of 6 months for the offence of contempt of court. And that fellow, that SSP, was directly sent to Tihar, that is Tihar jail. Now this MS Ahlawat subsequently found, of course with the legal advice, having taken the legal advice from the lawyers, came to know that his conviction by Supreme Court in respect of perjury offence was patently illegal in view of the mandatory provisions and the separate procedure laid down in the CRPC, that is under section 340 read with 195 of CRPC. So at this time I would shortly explain what is the procedure laid down in 340 of CRPC and 195 of CRPC. In the IPC, that is Indian Penal Code, there is a chapter, and the title of the chapter is Offences Against Justice, Public Justice. Now this chapter provides certain offences, and 191 and 193 are these some of the provisions under that chapter, which provide that if anybody gives false testimony in the court, then that shall be an offence. Now filing an affidavit in the court, that is false affidavit in the court, would be covered under this section 191, and that is called perjury, for which punishment is laid down under section 193. Certain other sections also can be attracted, like 199, that is false declaration on oath, and using such false declaration in the court as denial shall also be covered under this particular section. Now CRPC 195 says that no court shall take cognizance of such offence of perjury unless the complaint. Okay. Now the Supreme Court was the court before whom the officer MS Ahlawat had committed the perjury, and therefore the Supreme Court was required to file a written complaint either through particular bench or through the registrar of the court against Mr. MS Ahlawat. Instead of doing so, Supreme Court itself held a mini trial and convicted officer MS Ahlawat. That was in violation of mandatory provision of section 195 of CRPC. Why it became so important is because of the mandate of article 21 of the Constitution of India, because 21 of the Constitution of India declares, or rather it mandates, that no person shall be deprived of his liberty except according to procedure established by law. Now conviction and the sentence of 1 year is certainly deprivation of liberty for the period for which somebody is sentenced, in this case 1 year. Therefore that could not have been done unless the procedure laid down in CRPC 195 was followed. Accordingly, this was a case of not only violation of the provisions of 195 of CRPC but also the fundamental right guaranteed by article 21, and accordingly MS Ahlawat filed a petition in Supreme Court under article 32 that his conviction for perjury was in violation of his fundamental right under article 21 of the Constitution of India, as the procedure laid down in section 195 was not followed. Supreme Court had realized, and it rather commented that it was very unfortunate that the provisions of section 195 of CRPC were not brought to the notice of Supreme Court when it proceeded to convict MS Ahlawat directly instead of making a complaint to the magistrate having the jurisdiction, that is territorial jurisdiction of the area where such offence was committed. Supreme Court entertained this petition, and Supreme Court quashed and set aside the sentence in respect of perjury offence committed by Mr. M.S. Ahlawat. So this is one example where a writ petition was held maintainable by the Supreme Court against its own order. Now the another example I would like to give, famous case of Mr. A.R. Antule. Now you must be aware that A.R. Antule was the Chief Minister of Maharashtra state. In this case, what had happened? One Mr. Nayak had filed a criminal complaint under the Prevention of Corruption Act against A.R. Antule, and in that criminal complaint the cognizance was taken by the concerned court, and thereafter matter went up to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court had directed that in order to avoid very influence being used by the accused, who was of course politically powerful person, the trial should be transferred from the special court, that is normally session court, to the High Court, and this direction was issued by Supreme Court in exercise of its power while entertaining the petition. Now you must be aware that in CRPC there are many orders which are liable to be challenged before the higher court. Say for example, an application for discharge is preferred by the accused and that is rejected. The accused person would be entitled as a matter of right to challenge such an order before the High Court in revision. But when the trial itself got transferred to the High Court, then the very right of challenging the order rejecting the discharge application before the High Court is no more. So he was deprived of this remedy of filing a revision application, because the order passed by the High Court is not to be revised by the Supreme Court, and approaching Supreme Court under Article 136 is not a remedy of any aggrieved person, but it is rather discretionary power of Supreme Court. Supreme Court is not bound to entertain any such petition unless it feels that there is a substantial question of law involved in the case. Therefore, the remedy under 136, that is special lay petition, is not a matter of right but a discretion of the court. Therefore, virtually A.R. Antule felt that his very right of challenging the order before the High Court was taken away, and this was again resulting into violation of his fundamental right guaranteed by Article 21, because he was likely to be deprived of his liberty not according to the procedure established by law. Therefore, A.R. Antule filed a writ petition under Article 32 before the Supreme Court against the order passed by Supreme Court, thereby transferring the trial from Sessions Court to the High Court. Now in this case also, the Honorable Supreme Court realized that it was an error on the part of Supreme Court to have transferred the trial from Sessions Court, that is special court, to the High Court, and accordingly Supreme Court said that when any such error is brought to the notice of Supreme Court, it shall be duty of the court to rectify such an error. And Supreme Court observed that it should not look into whether a petition under Article 32 was filed, or appeal under 136 is filed, or a review petition is filed, or recall application is filed. Instead of looking into all these things, what court should do is to rectify the mistake, and accordingly in this case also the Supreme Court had virtually entertained the petition of A.R. Antule and quashed and set aside its own order by which the trial was transferred. So these are two important cases which would rather highlight that under such circumstances, when the court commits a serious error of law, which results into the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution of India, even a writ petition can be held maintainable in the Supreme Court. Now, on the similar lines, there is another case, that was the case of Supreme Court Bar Association, famous case, in which an advocate was held guilty of professional misconduct, and Supreme Court had directly cancelled the sanad of the advocate for a particular period of time. Now the question arose whether Supreme Court was a competent authority to cancel the sanad, because under the provisions of the Advocates Act of 1961, it is the Bar Council of India and the concerned state bar councils which are having the statutory powers to proceed against an advocate in respect of professional misconduct or other misconducts, and to impose any such punishment, including the punishment of cancelling the sanad. When any such bar council or Bar Council of India imposes such a punishment, such a penalty on any advocate after having him found guilty of misconduct, then the advocate who is punished is entitled to have an appeal against such an order before the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, when Supreme Court itself imposes such a punishment, then virtually the appeal is no more, because order of Supreme Court cannot be appealed against in any other court, as the Supreme Court is the highest and the final court of the country. Therefore, in this case also, a petition was preferred under Article 32 in the Supreme Court against the order of Supreme Court itself, and even that order of Supreme Court was set aside, and in this case also a writ petition under Article 32 was held maintainable, or it was practically entertained by Supreme Court to quash and set aside its own order. Now, these are the cases which will go to point out that under such circumstances where somebody's fundamental right is violated, even by the order of Supreme Court, a petition should be normally held tenable, maintainable, and it should be entertained. Of course, such cases would be rarest of rarest cases, very exceptional circumstances where the order passed by Supreme Court may be likely to result into violation of the fundamental rights of any litigant. Now, another such case can be from Privy Council, that is prior to independence of India. There was a case of one Mr. Gangaram, who was held guilty of contempt by the Privy Council, and Privy Council held that not only that a petition against an order passed by Privy Council is held maintainable, but also a petition shall be maintainable against order of Privy Council, in which he can be granted the compensation. So, Privy Council also had recognized the right of the aggrieved person to file a petition against its own order, and also to seek compensation if the order is found to be illegal. In the light of this, it is going to be very interesting to see whether the Honorable Supreme Court of India would entertain the writ petitions which are likely to be filed by the advocates who are recently held guilty of contempt, that is Nilesh Ojha, Vijay Kurle, and other activists, that is Pathan, as they are most likely to resort to the writ jurisdiction of Honorable Supreme Court under Article 32 to challenge the orders of Supreme Court itself. They have also remedy of filing a review petition, but as per the practice of Supreme Court, normally the review petitions are heard in the chamber, so the opportunity of being heard in the open court may not be available if they resort to the review petition, and it is for this reason that they may prefer the writ petition. And it would be interesting to see whether the Honorable Supreme Court of India would entertain their petitions. Now, one another aspect that is very important is that Supreme Court is the final court of the country, and there is a maxim which has almost obtained the position of law, that no one should suffer by the mistake of court, and it is the duty of the court to rectify its own mistakes. Now, because of this legal maxim, that Supreme Court has entertained the petitions, the cases which I have just mentioned, that is the Supreme Court Bar Association case, that is the MS Ahlawat case, that is the ER Antule case, and one another case which I forgot to mention is the case of Pushpa Hora. In that case also, Supreme Court had resorted to the legal maxim that it is the duty of Supreme Court to rectify the mistake, because no one should suffer by the mistake committed by the court. And using such legal maxim, the Honorable Supreme Court has rectified its error. Now, in this case of contempt against Mr. Nilesh Ojha, Vijay Kurle and Pathan, let us hope that Supreme Court may resort to the legal maxim that no one should suffer by the mistake of court, and that it is the duty of court to rectify the error if it is established that it is an error. Now, this is very interesting aspect of the maintainability of writ petitions against the orders of Supreme Court.